Imagine being an intricate part of shaping a country and not having any real say about who is in leadership, how much you earn, where you live, what you do, or anything else. Prevented from participating, wholly disenfranchised. The 15th Amendment was supposed to end discrimination in voting on the other side of its ratification. Some of our ancestors had to pay to participate in elections or had to count how many bubbles are in a bar of soap, virtually making it impossible to vote. They fought to be seen. They fought to be heard. Our ancestors literally fought, bled, and died for our ability to finally be fully enfranchised in a country we helped establish. And you say that doesn't motivate you to vote. Well, what will? Folks say, why participate in a system that was designed to exclude you? And where the hell do they go after Election Day? Because they aren't back for me until the next Election Day. These are all legitimate questions that deserve real answers. So today's conversation includes political strategist and former senior advisor to President Biden's 2020 campaign, my friend Alencia Johnson, and current stars of VH1's Love and Hip Hop Miami, sharing their raw ideas and real opinions on how we activate and empower the Black vote. You all tape Love and Hip Hop Miami in Florida.
Yes.
You all know that there are a lot of things happening politically in Florida. Recently, a Black woman named A.J. Owens was killed in Florida. Of course, there's a 6-week abortion ban now. DEI, which includes diversity, equity, inclusion, those programs are being cut. History being snatched out of classrooms. Is there an issue in particular that you all feel particularly called or impassioned about?
Well, for me, I'm a mother, so of course, anything that has to do with children impacts me emotionally. I don't understand how people can tell you what to do with your body as far as abortion. I seen an article about a 10-year-old girl who got raped and she wasn't able to get an abortion. She had to travel like states. And to me, that's sad, you know? And it's like, if you can't get abortions, what do we do about these children who are not wanted?
I think for me, it's just really disappointing to know that they're trying to now, or they are insinuating or basically teaching that slavery was to benefit.
Or that our ancestors benefited from slavery, really is the point. Yeah,
and that to me is, first of all, it's a lie. So I don't agree with it. I think that alone right there is just, it sets us back. And it's just kind of like, wow, we've come so far to let it be known what change needs to be made, but here we are with this, like, that's the problem.
I love that you brought up the 6-week abortion ban and you were talking about this impact as a mother and thinking about it. You know, abortion is healthcare. I will share, I used to work at Planned Parenthood, their national office, and did a lot of work in regards to what reproductive health meant for Black women. And the reality is, you know, we can talk about voting for presidents and members of Congress and what can happen at the federal level, at the national level. But really what is happening is at the states, and that's impacting people's ability to get health care, to manage their pregnancies, to manage, God forbid, a miscarriage or something like that. And so it is so important that we understand that our one vote helps add up to 100 votes, helps add up to 500 votes, because that is when it's so much more important. Well, it's always important, right?
I'm curious to know, as we talk about a Black vote that matters, it takes each one of us. And so reflecting back on your own stories, the first time you voted, what made you go vote? Was there an issue that made you go and vote?
Every time I voted, my mom always inspired me to go out and vote. And in the past, people died just to get us here to register and vote. And so when it's time to vote, I think, your parents or the people who love you, like, push the issue, go out and vote. And they might, help you go and vote and help you sway your opinion on what you want to vote for. And for me, I think that registering to vote is big, but knowing who you're voting for and knowing what you're voting for is important, whether you're 18 or you're 80 years old. I remember voting for Obama, and I remember it being a cultural moment where everybody was voting. Now, it seems like it dropped off very high, where people aren't voting like they did in '08. We gotta stay consistent if we want to make change, how we want to make change. So I know I'm off subject.
Well, if there's another Black president, I guarantee you we would all show up for them too.
Princess, speaking of making history, do you remember the first time you voted?
The first time I voted was when Obama was running for president. And before that, I was, I'd never voted before. I was the type of person that was like, my vote doesn't matter, you know what I mean? But I just wanted to be a part of history. And I feel like so many people felt that same thing. And it impacted, like, look where we're at now.
Okay, so what about you, Bobby? I know we have some breaking news about your voting status.
I come from a background where I was really taught, like, your vote don't matter. The reason why a lot of times there will be the adults in my life, they'll be like, well, shit, I vote every year and goddamn, I ain't getting the results I want, so my vote don't matter. So, I kind of was conditioned to believe that my vote don't matter. I'm 32 years old, and to this day, I still have not voted. I am not registered to vote. But I just want to point out, there's a lot of people out there that are registered to vote, but they skip out years on even voting. I think that I'm gonna finally take the initiative this year to, not just register, but actually stand in the line and let my voice be heard. Yeah, let my voice be heard, because I do believe now my voice matters.
Yeah.
Because simply put, if I ain't gonna speak for myself, there's gonna be someone else who's gonna stand in line and they're gonna speak for me.
That part.
And
How can we be authentic in addressing the very real concerns they have about their votes mattering and the relevance of that vote when they look at their, micro-level environment and things haven't really changed, or we've gone backwards? It really does feel like we've gone backwards. Like, the Supreme Court is doing a job on us, and not to mention places like Florida that are also doing a job on us. What do we say
that'll
to
make
them?
y'all emotional.
Right?
It's very emotional.
What do we do?
Let it out, Bobby.
No, that's just so unreal.
Gotta let it out.
That's why we're having this conversation today, though,
And
to bring our power back.
Yeah, go.
Okay. I think that's a valid belief, right? I think that's a valid feeling. I never try to discredit people for feeling that way. I've worked for a lot of presidential campaigns. And I think what folks have realized is, oh my goodness, one, it's more than representation. Two, it's more than the president. And people are always saying, oh my God, I showed up for the president. They promise higher minimum wage.
Yeah.
They promise universal health care. They promise all of these things. And then it's not happening. But it's not happening because the president didn't believe in that. It's happening because we didn't vote the way that we could have for Congress.
Yeah.
It's happening because, let's put federal policy aside, which is, what the president and Congress, they manage. We look at our state politics. We're not showing up for our governor's races. We're not even showing up for our mayor's races. But ever the organizer and being optimistic, this conversation right here gives me hope because folks are saying, hey, wait a minute, I can influence that local election.
Yeah.
I can get 50 of my friends together and we can make sure the school board looks differently so that they're not taking out real history when it comes to my people, or that they're not saying that we can't have sex education for kids to be safe because they're making it about this culture war. There are ways in which we can do that, but I don't think we would have gotten here without that frustration.
So let's get into the power of the Black vote. I want to really unpack whether you believe our vote has been diluted. There have been a lot of things impacted, including affirmative action. We talked about reproductive justice earlier, and there's so many things that our people are specifically impacted by. And I just want to know if our Black vote still has the same power.
I think that if more people like me get out and go register, yes.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's gonna come from those getting up, actually doing it. That's the power. You said, what's the power of?
Just like if our Black vote has been diluted. Like when we look at, even when we talked about what Princess was saying earlier about how it feels like we've gone back. She said, look at us now. And we're like, look at us now.
I mean, it's like, of course we still have a lot of work to do, but look how far we've come, is what I was saying.
Yeah.
I think some of the reason people think it's diluted is because our attention span as a society is very short. And so it's so much easier to see a clip on Instagram or TikTok and they say, oh, you voted for X, Y, and Z and they didn't do anything. And people listen to that.
Exactly.
Versus having this family conversation of, oh, wait a minute, I do have more power. And to be honest, all of the Black people who are eligible to vote do not vote. And I'm not saying that to make anyone feel bad, because I think our culture has made us feel as though our vote doesn't matter. But if we actually did, if we voted even 10% more than the way that we have been, a lot of things would change. And I like to remind people that elected officials work for us.
That's right.
Their salaries are paid by our tax dollars.
Exactly.
So we can vote for them and then also show up at their office and hold them accountable to what they said that they were going to do.
I feel like when Barack was running for president, I think that the part of the reason why he won was because everyone was excited to see a Black president in office. It was like, I'm gonna go vote for Obama, right? So he wins. Why can't we say, why are we afraid to say, we need another Black man in office then, if that's what it's gonna take?
But having another Black man in office, what is he offering?
Another Black man in office is going to do what needs to be done for this country.
And what is that?
He doesn't have to be Black. He just has to share the same values
And
as we do.
does it have to be a he?
Yeah.
I don't think it's race.
Person.
She, they,
whoever in office. And my thing is this, I feel like it's okay for us to want that as a Black community.
Well, one of the things that you mentioned earlier, Reggie, you talked about, what you were essentially talking about was voter education. Like, it's not enough to just show up to the polls. You need to know what you're voting for.
Exactly,
You just pushed back on Bobby and said, what is this Black man who you want elected potentially, what does he stand for? There's spent a lot of time talking about a vote that matters, but really our political power overall matters. We can't just stop by registering to vote.
Yeah.
You gotta go cast your ballot and know when election day is, right?
Yes.
You can't, it's not enough to just know when election day is and go and cast your vote. How are you holding your elected officials accountable? Alencia aptly said, look, these folks work for us. We pay them whether or not we went to cast our ballot for them.
We could pull up to their office and complain if we need
Have a
to.
say-so.
Yeah, that's it.
Their phone numbers
Well, you have to know who you're voting for, the issues that they support. You have to make sure that their issues support your issues and your beliefs and what you believe in. And, like, most importantly, your vote, essentially, you're voting for someone who shares those same views as you.
Yes.
And, you know, for me, I didn't realize that until recently when I had children. You know what I mean?
You know one thing, Alencia, and I want to come to you on this. We spend a lot of time in our space where we, dissect politics, strategize around politics, talking about something called voter suppression. I'm sure you all have heard about voter suppression. It's so interesting to me that uniquely as Black folks, we will voluntarily suppress our votes in the not voting conversation and not even wait for them to take it, not realizing that clearly we're powerful because they're fighting real hard in multiple states, in multiple ways to suppress our votes. What do you say to the folks that are voluntarily like, I'm gonna suppress my own vote, don't even worry about it?
I mean, I think we're on the same page here because I was thinking about this. You know, if our vote wasn't so powerful, why would they be trying so hard to suppress it? And suppression literally looks like getting rid of mail-in ballots and early voting so that people see these long lines on election day and they're like, well, it's not a holiday, so I can't take off of work. I'm good.
Trying to distract us
They
during
tried
voting
it.
time.
No vote.
Exactly.
Let's jump into the final part of our conversation, discussing activating the Black vote. So, y'all, we know it's the 50th anniversary of hip-hop. It's going to be the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington. We still know we have a lot to overcome, and some of that will be addressed by how we exercise our political power. Of course, we talked about voting. What are the next steps? What other actions must we take?
Setting goals.
I love that.
Setting goals.
We heard that in some of the
Yes.
things you said earlier, too.
She know what she talking about.
Yes, she does. Princess is on it. Alencia, one of our good friends, Alicia Garza, created an organization called Black Futures Lab, started a whole project, the Black Census Project, now exceeded over 100,000 Black folks who have signed up to say, this is how our voices must be heard. These are the issues we care most about. What else must we do?
You know, once we have that agenda, we as a people need to take that agenda to the folks that we have voted for and tell them, hey, this is the issue that matters to me. And if they aren't voting or, enacting policy in the way that we like it, we got to vote them out or get some community organizers or someone we believe in to actually run for office.
Alencia and I talked earlier about voter suppression, right? When people go after you relentlessly, it's not apathy. Sometimes it's fear. Everybody doesn't live in a progressive area. And certainly you all understand taping in Florida. there are real consequences there. People were arrested for just encouraging people to go and vote.
Can I ask you?
Yes.
Yeah.
What does apathy mean?
Apathy is the word often tossed out at Black folks for when they choose to stay at home. It is the exact opposite of people choosing to participate in an election, right, in this context. So when we talk about Black voter turnout, Black voters are apathetic means they didn't turn out to vote.
They apathetic, meaning they was like, it's too much traffic. I don't feel like I'm chilling.
That's what they'll put on us.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is oftentimes apathetic is a bigger bucket. They were intimidated by voting. Sometimes there are things on the ballot that are initiatives and referendums like we talked about earlier. You might not know what they are. Where I'm from, Washington State, they give you a voter guide so you can read the pros and cons of both of those initiatives, the pros and cons of the platform.
What if I don't know what none of that means?
Well, then you can get additional help. But
Should I guess?
That's what I told you. Educate yourself. Did I tell you that's what's important for us to educate?
Yeah, I was saying that
before you
too.
get into the ballot booth. And here's the thing. This is different to me. My opinion, Alencia, I'd love to hear yours. My opinion is different on this. This ain't no SAT. Like, you don't get points for guessing.
You feel like that when you in there voting.
I understand, but understand this. If you pick wrong, you know how in dominoes they say, steady long, steady wrong? You can't pick wrong.
So just mark
voting.
it.
No, I'm
Okay.
saying don't just mark it. Like, know what you're voting for, and if you don't have the consciousness or the knowledge about it, I would leave it blank.
Like if I leave 5 or 6 things blank and I
Yeah.
said I'm voting for this and that, and everything else is blank, it's an error, right?
No. So what we're saying is that depending on where you're voting, there may be a locality where they decide that it is an invalid ballot, which is unfortunate. But for the most part, that should not be the case. That it should actually be against the law. What Angela and I are talking about is before you go to your polling location, they will have sample ballots for you to understand who's for what issue, who's on your ballot, and then you can learn more information about what that's going to be. The problem that you were talking about, this is actually some of that work.
Oh, you understand?
This literally is some of that work. Look, Angela and I can be on these political shows all day, every day.
I see y'all all the time.
But those are people who are already engaged and somewhat informed.
That's right. That's right.
We're
That's
doing
true.
this work here to meet people where they are because they're watching y'all.
You right.
They're watching y'all more than they're watching us on TV.
And you know what? For y'all to take time out to talk to us and to educate us and to educate everybody watching is big for us.
It is.
Because a lot of times we don't know what the hell going on.
There's so many things that I have to learn that I want to learn. I'm going to get your number, and I'm going to get your number.
Yeah.
And from here on out, I vow to use my platform to make a difference.
And all the questions I have with y'all, she gonna text y'all and tell y'all what my questions are. And that's how we do it.
Before we go, Bobby, I gotta ask what we can expect to see on the new season of Love and Hip Hop Miami.
Ooh, child. I see a little spice, a little drama, a little messiness. But overall, we're back, reinvented, bigger, better than ever, and it's season 5, so little fun in the sun.
I'd like to thank my panelists for a lively, dynamic, and passionate conversation today. In closing, I'd like to leave you with this final thought. If your vote doesn't matter, why are they working overtime to keep you from voting? I mean, investing real money, changing real laws, and even trying to discredit the process. You are why your Black vote matters. Be sure to tune in to Love and Hip Hop Miami on Mondays at 8/7 Central on VH1. Until next time, I'm Angela Rye.